Very good morning, students. I hope all of you having good health. In the last class, we have completed stratospheric pollution and their harmful effect. Stratospheric pollution and their harmful effect. Today we are discussing new concept in video 3, that is water pollution. Water pollution. Definition, student. The phenomenon in which the pollutants enter into water bodies directly or indirectly, which are decreasing usefulness of water and produce harmful effect, are called water pollution. The phenomenon in which the pollutants enters into water bodies like rivers, seas, ponds, lakes, wells, all the things are called water bodies. The pollutants enter into water bodies directly or indirectly, which are decreasing usefulness of water, When the pollutants enter into water bodies directly and indirectly, then what happens, student? The usefulness of water will be decreases. And produce harmful effect. This is known as water pollution. Once again, I will repeat, student. The phenomenon in which the pollutants enter into water bodies either directly or indirectly, which are decreasing usefulness of water, and produce harmful effects, are known as water pollution. For example, the water is polluted with some pollutants which are not useful for drinking purpose. If water is polluted, it can cause sometimes cholera, typhoid also. That's why which can causes harmful effect, and the water is not useful. That is called water pollution. Causes of water pollution. There are three causes, students: pathogens, organic waste, and chemical pollutants. There are three causes for the water pollution. We are discussing one by one, student. First one is pathogens. The microorganisms that causes diseases are called pathogens. The microorganisms that causes diseases are called pathogens. Examples are virus, fungus, bacteria. These three are called pathogens. The microorganisms which causes diseases are called pathogens. Example: pathogens enter into water bodies from domestic sewage and animal excreta. Domestic sewage in our household purposes, cutted vegetables and dust, all are considered domestic sewage. And from animal excreta also, the virus, fungus as well as bacteria is enter into human body. The water bodies contains aquatic animals. From the animals, excreta will be released, that is enter into water bodies in the form of the virus, fungus and bacteria. Okay, students, copy these 2 points. Okay, next continuation, student. Human excreta contains bacteria such as E. coli, known as Escherichia coli, and Streptococcus faecalis, which causes gastrointestinal diseases. In the NCERT textbook, it is direct sentence, student. They will give like the question: the human excreta contains which type of bacteria which can causes which type of diseases? The human excreta contains E. coli, that is Escherichia coli, and Streptococcus faecalis, which causes gastrointestinal diseases, diseases. Remember these two words, students: E. coli and Streptococcus, and gastrointestinal diseases. Gastrointestinal diseases. Second one, student, organic waste. The second reason for the water pollution is organic waste. That is, the organic waste material like domestic sewage, animal sewage, biodegradable organic compounds, and industrial waste undergo biodegradation in the presence of the dissolved oxygen, which is known as DO, present in the water. For example, the waste material coming from the industries, animal sewage, domestic sewage, and biodegradable organic materials and industry, every waste materials are thrown into water bodies. We know that, like seas, ponds, and lakes. Then what happens, student? Due to this reason, all these organic waste material undergo biodegradation. That is, they can undergo chemical reaction. That is biodegradation in the presence of dissolved oxygen. Yes, students, the oxygen dissolved in the water bodies are known as dissolved oxygen. The oxygen present in the water bodies inside are known as dissolved oxygen. These organic waste material undergo biodegradation in the presence of dissolved oxygen present in the water. Degradation means the large species degraded into small species. Biodegradation means in the presence of dissolved oxygen, that is known as biodegradation, in the presence of dissolved oxygen present in the water bodies. Once again, I repeat, student, the organic waste material like domestic sewage, animal sewage, biodegradable organic compounds, and industrial waste undergo biodegradation in the presence of dissolved oxygen. Present in the water are known as present in the water. Then what happens, student? If this organic waste material undergo biodegradation, the water is polluted. Due to this, the percentage of dissolved oxygen in water bodies decreases, which is harmful to aquatic life. Here, as the organic waste materials present in the water bodies increases, for the biodegradation of that organic compounds, dissolved oxygen will be required. Therefore, more amount of organic waste material, more amount of dissolved oxygen is required for the biodegradation of that materials. Hence, what happens, student? The percentage of the DO value, the percentage of the dissolved oxygen value decreases, which is harmful to aquatic life. For example, fishes, frogs are live underwater. The fishes, if sufficient amount of oxygen is not available, then what happens, student? Directly leads to death only. Due to the presence of organic waste material present in the water bodies, for the biodegradation of the organic waste material, the dissolved oxygen will be required. Hence, the percentage of the DO value, dissolved oxygen, decreases, which is harmful to aquatic animals like fishes. Okay, students, copy this. Okay, students, next one, dissolved oxygen. In competitive point of view, KSET, NEET, JEE point of view, this is very, very important, student. Dissolved oxygen, which is known as DO. In which is dissolved, student? In water dissolved. In water, oxygen is dissolved. Therefore, that word gives the meaning. Dissolved oxygen in water. It can be defined as follows: the number of milligrams of oxygen dissolved in 1 liter of water, are known as dissolved oxygen. The number of milligrams of oxygen dissolved in 1 liter of water are known as dissolved oxygen, which can be expressed in the units of ppm, that is parts per million, and milligram per liter and milligram per liter and milligram per liter. The units to measure the dissolved oxygen in water is ppm and milligram per liter. Okay, ppm stands for parts per million. Next one, dissolved oxygen in water bodies coming from atmosphere and photosynthesis of plants and photosynthesis of the plants. The dissolved oxygen in the water bodies are coming from the atmosphere, as well as photosynthesis of the plants, because we know that it is photosynthesis reaction. 6CO2 plus 12H2O in the presence of light gives C6H12O6 plus 6O2 plus 6H2O. Here oxygen will be evolved. That oxygen will be dissolved in the water. The water bodies contains plants. If they can undergo photosynthesis, then oxygen will be dissolved. Oxygen will be evolved that can be dissolved in the water, which is known as DO. Once again, student, the dissolved oxygen in water bodies coming from atmosphere and photosynthesis of the plants Next one, DO value highest at afternoon session and lowest at night session, because photosynthesis occurs at daytime but not at night time. Here in competitive point of view, they will ask, the dissolved oxygen in the water bodies will be highest at afternoon session, lowest at night time, or lowest at afternoon session or highest at night time. Like that options they will give, because the dissolved oxygen is always at afternoon session and lowest at night session in the water bodies, because in the presence of sunlight, the carbon dioxide react with the water molecules, it can form oxygen. That oxygen will be dissolved in the water. Therefore, the sunlight will be essential for the dissolved oxygen present in the water bodies. Like this question they will ask student. DO value highest at afternoon session and lowest at night session. Give reason, or which of the following is the correct reason? Because photosynthesis occurs at daytime but not at night time. We know that the trees, the carbon dioxide will be inhaled by the trees and oxygen will be evolved. But in night time what happens? Reverse process will be takes place. They inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. That is one reason. At the same time, in the presence of sunlight, oxygen will be evolved. When night time sunlight is not available. In a competitive point of view, very very important student. In a daytime, DO value in water body is highest because light is available. Because in daytime sunlight is available. Next one, student. Pure water DO value will be 10 ppm. That is 10 parts per million. Polluted water DO value will be 6 parts per million. Here DO value will be decreases. In polluted water less DO value, and in pure water highest DO value. Therefore, we are given conclusion, student. The dissolved oxygen value directly proportional to the purity of water. As the DO value increases, purity of water increases. As the DO value decreases, purity of water will be decreases. In examination, they will give some examples A, B, C. Their DO values are given. Which is more pure water means highest DO value, highest pure water. Because DO value is directly proportional to the purity of water. Okay, students, copy this. Okay, students, next continuation, very very important. Pure water has the DO value 10 parts per million. Polluted water has a DO value 6 parts per million. The decreased DO value in the polluted water is due to biodegradation of organic waste material by microorganisms and respiration by microorganisms. We know that if organic waste material is added to water bodies, For the biodegradation of the organic waste material, some amount of oxygen will be required. Some amount of oxygen will be required. That is dissolved oxygen. For that biodegradation of organic waste material, the dissolved oxygen will be reduced. The dissolved oxygen will be reduced. Hence, more organic waste material, more amount of dissolved oxygen will be required. Hence, the DO value will be decreases. The DO value will be decreases. At the same time, respiration by microorganisms. For the biodegradation of organic waste material, some microorganisms are required. For the surviving of microorganisms, some dissolved oxygen will be required. That is respiration by microorganisms, so the DO value will be decreases. The DO value will be decreases. More concentrated students. The decreased DO value in the polluted water, is due to biodegradation of organic waste material, by microorganisms and respiration by microorganisms. When the organic waste material is added for that biodegradation, the microorganisms uses dissolved oxygen, because in the presence of dissolved oxygen only, the organic waste material undergo biodegradation. Degradation means dissociation. Therefore, it is clear that in the presence of dissolved oxygen, the organic waste material undergo biodegradation by using microorganisms. For surviving microorganisms also some oxygen will be required. That is also coming from dissolved oxygen only. Therefore, due to the pollution of water, the DO value will be decreased, because the dissolved oxygen required for the biodegradation of organic waste material as well as respiration by the microorganisms. Next one, student, third factor, chemical pollutants. The water soluble inorganic chemicals that include heavy metals such as cadmium, mercury, nickel. These compounds damage the kidneys, liver and central nervous system. A very interesting point, student. We know that water is called universal solvent. It has the ability to dissolve in it most of the inorganic compounds and some organic compounds also. Therefore, the water soluble inorganic chemicals that include heavy metals, student. Cadmium is dissolved, mercury is dissolved and nickel is also dissolved. These compounds damage the kidneys, liver and central nervous system also, and CNS, central nervous system also. Why? Because students, while drinking water, because of any reason, heavy toxic metal is added to water that can damage our inner parts like kidneys, liver and central nervous system. I will give small example, student. For example, the water is flowing from one place to another place, from one home to another home by using lead pipes. Because of any reason, if the lead pipes are undergo damage, then the small amount of lead particles are enter into water. If you drink that water, the lead heavy toxic, the lead will be heavy toxic that can enter into water. It can causes toxic diseases. It can causes severe and harmful diseases. That is also one example, student. When water is flowing into the PVC pipes made up of lead pipes, what happens, student? The lead is heavy toxic material. The lead is heavy toxic material enter into water bodies and causes harmful diseases. Okay, students. Right. Next one, the organic chemicals. PCB stands for polychlorinated biphenyls, known as cleansing agents. Detergents and fertilizers are also major causes of water pollution. These are the three important reasons, students, from chemical pollutant side. That is the organic chemicals, PCB, polychlorinated biphenyl cleansing agent. In example, students, Which of the following is the example of cleansing agent from this chapter? PCB stands for polychlorinated biphenyl. Detergents and fertilizers are also major causes of water pollution. We will discuss, student. Cleansing agent. For cleaning the floor, we are using the Dettol and different Lysol, different liquids. They can contain PCB, polychlorinated biphenyls. During the cleansing process, the water is mixed with this PCB. The water is mixed with the PCB. Because of any reason, the cleansing agent remaining and kept on at any place, then we are drinking that water by mistake, then it will cause some health and serious problems. Why? Because the cleansing, the PCB is polluted the water. The PCB polluted the water. Next, detergents. For cleaning cloths, we are using soaps and detergents. The detergents are better than soaps. Even though is better than soaps, these detergents also affected the normal water. This can polluted the water molecule. Why? Because when detergents is mixed with water, after that the biodegradation of the detergents will be takes place. For the biodegradation, microorganisms are required and dissolved oxygen will be required. Similarly, for the surviving of microorganisms, respiration of oxygen will be required. Therefore, the detergents usage will be well and good, but the biodegradation or the dissociation of the detergent materials, we can require a DO value. Due to this reason, the DO value will be decreased. For example, pure water 10 ppm. After using that detergent water, then what happens, student? The DO value will be decreased. 10 ppm changes to the 6 parts per million. 6 ppm. That is one reason, student. Next one, third one is fertilizers. We are using fertilizers. When after usage of the fertilizers, the remaining fertilizers they are thrown into water bodies. The fertilizers mainly contains phosphate. Due to this reason, in water bodies, the concentration of the phosphate will be accumulated and increases. Hence, the nutrients present in the water bodies will be increases. Due to increasing nutrients, dense plant population increases. Will be increases. As the plant population increases, the plants require oxygen. For their survival. As the DO value decreases due to dense plant population, the aquatic animals are not survived. They can directly lead to death only. Due to fertilizers in water bodies, the concentration of phosphate increases. As the concentration of the phosphate increases, dense plant population increases. As the dense plant population increases, the survival of the aquatic animals will be difficult because the DO value will be decreased present in the water bodies. Copy this, student. Okay, students. Third reason in chemical pollutants. Student. Acids like sulfuric acid and salts like sodium chloride, calcium chloride are used to melt snow and ice in colder climates, which are water soluble chemical pollutants. In colder countries, the much more amount of ice and snow is possible on the roadside also. In the early morning, in colder countries, you are observing more amount of snow is possible because that is the atmosphere of that country. Therefore, to clear the traffic on the roads, to clear the snow on the road and traffic, they are sprinkling sodium chloride and calcium chloride and sulfuric acid droplets. Then what happens, student? Due to that spray, the ice will be dissolved. The ice can be converted into water. Hence, what happens, student? The traffic will be clear. But during the process, The acids are dissolved in water. The salts like sodium chloride dissolved in water and calcium chloride will be dissolved in water. The purity of water will be decreases. The water will be dissolved in the groundwater. Then what happens, student? The pure water can be changed to the impure water. Pure water can be changed to the impure water. This type of chemical pollutants observed in the cold countries only. Once again, student, acids like sulfuric acid, salts like sodium chloride and calcium chloride are used to melt snow and ice in colder climates, which are water soluble chemical pollutants. Why? Because they are soluble in water. Next, students, in NEET point of view and competitive point of view, one of the very important after dissolved oxygen, biological oxygen demand. That is the number of milligrams of dissolved oxygen needed by the aerobic biological microorganism to break down the organic waste material present in the 1 liter of water at 20 degrees centigrade over 5 days are known as biological oxygen demand. That is the number of milligrams of dissolved oxygen. Needed by the aerobic biological microorganism. Here very simple term, student. Aerobic means in the presence of oxygen only this microorganism will be survived. Biological means the microorganisms like virus, bacteria, fungus used as biological microorganisms. Once again, student, microorganism is, we know that the small living substances which can cause diseases are known as pathogens. So these are comes under microorganisms like virus, bacteria and fungus. Biological microorganism means the microorganisms which can used for the biodegradation of the organic waste material are known as biological microorganisms. Aerobic biological microorganism means these microorganisms survive in the presence of oxygen only. Aerobic in the presence of oxygen, anaerobic in the absence of oxygen. That's why aerobic biological microorganisms. To break down the organic waste material, present in 1 liter of water, at 20 degrees centigrade over 5 days are known as biological oxygen demand or BOD. The number of milligrams of dissolved oxygen needed by the aerobic biological microorganisms to break down the organic waste material present in 1 liter of water at 20 degrees centigrade over 5 days are known as biological oxygen demand. Very simple, student. If organic waste material is added to the water bodies for the biodegradation, for the decomposition of organic waste material, some amount of the dissolved oxygen will be required. How much amount of dissolved oxygen is required? That is known as biological oxygen demand. More amount of the dissolved oxygen will be required, more BOD value. Less amount of the dissolved oxygen will be required, less BOD value. For the biodegradation of organic waste material, some amount of the dissolved oxygen will be required. That is known as biological oxygen demand. Once again, student, the number of milligrams of dissolved oxygen needed by the aerobic biological microorganism to break down the organic waste material present in 1 liter of water at 20 degrees centigrade over 5 days These are the experimental conditions, student. In 1 liter of water at 20 degrees centigrade over 5 days are known as biological oxygen demand. Biological oxygen demand. Here one important point, student. Difference between DO and BOD. DO means the number of milligrams of oxygen dissolved in 1 liter of water. The number of milligrams of oxygen dissolved in 1 liter of water are known as dissolved oxygen. But BOD means the number of milligrams of dissolved oxygen needed, required by the aerobic microorganisms, aerobic biological microorganisms for the degradation of the organic waste material present in 1 liter of water at 20 degrees centigrade over 5 days. The number of milligrams of DO value required is biological oxygen demand. The number of milligrams oxygen dissolved in water is dissolved oxygen. Therefore, more amount of the dissolved oxygen is required, more BOD value. Less amount of dissolved oxygen is required, less BOD value. Therefore, pure water has the BOD value less than 5 parts per million, whereas polluted water BOD value more than 70 ppm, more than 17 parts per million. For example, in the case of pure water, there is no organic waste material. Hence, the usage of dissolved oxygen will be less for the biodegradation. Hence, BOD value will be less than 5 ppm, less than 5 parts per million, because there is no organic waste material present in the pure water. If there is no organic waste material, the number of dissolved oxygen, the number of milligrams of dissolved oxygen is not used. Hence, BOD value decreases. Whereas in polluted water, more amount of organic waste materials are present. Hence, accumulation of organic materials increases. For the biodegradation of that organic waste materials, more amount of oxygen will be required. More amount of oxygen will be required. Hence, BOD value will be increased. BOD value will be increased, which is known as biological oxygen demand. That's why pure water, the BOD value less than 5 ppm, less amount of oxygen will be required. Whereas polluted water, the BOD value more than 17 parts per million, because more amount of the dissolved oxygen DO value will be required for the biodegradation of organic waste material. Right, student. In our NEET and JEE point of view, this equation will be very important, student. Therefore, the biological oxygen demand inversely proportional to purity of water. Inversely proportional to purity of water. Less BOD value, more pure water. Highest BOD value, less pure water. The purity value, the purity of the water will be decreases with the increase of the BOD value. Decreases with the increase of the BOD value. Okay, students, copy this. Next, continuation, students, in water pollution. Fertilizers contains phosphates. Fertilizers mainly contains phosphates. The addition of phosphates in water increases algae growth. The addition of phosphates in water increases algae growth. The growth of algae reduces oxygen concentration in water. Which causes anaerobic condition. That is, aerobic condition means presence of oxygen, and aerobic condition means absence of oxygen. Due to reducing of oxygen concentration, anaerobic conditions takes place. Finally, leads to death of aquatic animals. Due to reducing of oxygen, anaerobic condition, death of aquatic animals like fishes takes place. This phenomenon is known as eutrophication. The fertilizers contains phosphates. The addition of phosphates in water increases algae growth, because nutrients increases. Phosphates increases, nutrients in water increases. Enrichment of nutrients takes place, which increases algae growth. Algae growth means some of the dense plants. The growth of algae reduces oxygen concentration in water. Amount of oxygen in the water, which causes anaerobic condition, absence of oxygen, finally leads to death of aquatic animals. If oxygen is absent, if oxygen concentration decreases, then the survival of the aquatic animals will be difficult, finally leads to death of aquatic animals. This phenomenon is known as eutrophication. This phenomenon is known as eutrophication. This can be defined as follows, that is the process in which nutrient enriched water bodies support dense plant population which kills animal life by depriving it of oxygen. Means the dense plant population increases, means oxygen will be required for the dense plant population, which kills animal life. By depriving it of oxygen means the oxygen required for the aquatic animals absorbed by the dense plants, that is algae growth, by depriving it of oxygen. If total oxygen needed for the aquatic animals are absorbed by or taken by the dense plant like algae growth, then what happens, students? Oxygen is not available for the animals, and result in the subsequent loss of biodiversity is known as eutrophication. Hence animals death will be takes place, aquatic animals death will be takes place. Hence there is an imbalance of biodiversity, subsequent loss of biodiversity will be takes place. Imbalance of biodiversity will be takes place, that is animals and plants that are not equal. Imbalance of biodiversity will be takes place. This phenomenon is known as eutrophication. The process in which nutrient enriched water bodies means due to fertilizers the concentration of the phosphates in water increases, hence that water is known as enriched water bodies. Nutrient enriched water bodies, in the water nutrients increases, hence that is known as nutrients enriched water bodies. Supported dense plant population, which kills animal life. How can you kill this? By depriving it of oxygen, by absorbing oxygen present in the water, the concentration of dissolved oxygen in water decreases, hence aquatic animal leads to death only, hence the biodiversity will be losses, that is, and result in the subsequent loss of biodiversity is known as eutrophication. Once again I will define, student. The process in which nutrient enriched water bodies support a dense plant population, which kills animal life, by depriving it of oxygen, and result in the subsequent loss of biodiversity, are known as eutrophication. Clear, students? Very simple definition. In our competitive point of view, they will give the statement directly, which is known as dash eutrophication. Right. In eutrophication process, subsequent loss of aquatic animal takes place due to the anaerobic conditions. In eutrophication process, which condition takes place means anaerobic conditions will be takes place. Copy this, student. Next continuation, students. In competitive point of view, this table form is important. International standards of pure drinking water. We are drinking water. That water contains how much amount of iron, how much amount of aluminium, how much amount of calcium, how much amount of fluorine. All these standards will be required. These standards are given by the WHO, World Health Organization. That is the concentration of fluoride ion. In a pure drinking water is 2 ppm, stands for 2 parts per million. Lead 50 ppb, 50 parts per billion. It is parts per million, it is parts per billion. Sulfate ion concentration 500 parts per million, 500 parts per million. Nitrate ion 50 parts per million. Iron 0.2 parts per million. Manganese 0.05 parts per million. And aluminium 0.2 parts per million. Copper 5 parts per million. Zinc 5 parts per million. Cadmium 0.05 parts per million. This total information will be memory based student. We can remember and by heart these international standards of the drinking water. In competitive point of view, what is the concentration of the sulfate ion? What is the concentration of nitrate ion? What is the concentration of the fluoride ion? Like that questions they will frame. You can by heart these concentration. Next one, student. Some important and interesting points in competitive point of view. The fluoride ion concentration above 2 ppm causes brown mottling of teeth. That is, the teeth color changes to brown color. Which is known as brown mottling of tooth. Next, the excess fluoride ion greater than 10 ppm, excess more than 2 ppm, that is excess fluoride ion nearly greater than 10 parts per million causes harmful effect to bones and teeth. Is known as fluorosis. That is a type of medical condition which is known as fluorosis. Greater than 10 ppm fluorosis. Greater than 2 ppm brown mottling of teeth. Remember student, both diseases due to the excess of fluoride ion concentration only. One is greater than 2 ppm, another one is greater than 10 ppm. If the fluoride ion concentration is 1 parts per million in drinking water, then fluoride ion hardens the enamel of the teeth by converting hydroxyapatite to fluorapatite. If the concentration of fluoride ion in the pure drinking water is 1 parts per million, then the fluoride ion hardens the enamel of the teeth. That the enamel contains in teeth. The hardens the enamel of the teeth by converting hydroxyapatite to fluorapatite. That is 3Ca3PO4 taken twice, CaOH taken twice. 3Ca3PO4 taken twice, CaOH taken twice, plus 2F minus gives 3Ca3PO4 taken twice, calcium difluoride plus 2OH minus. It is known as hydroxyapatite. React with the fluoride ion to form fluorapatite. Here these two hydroxide ions replaced with 2 moles of fluoride ion. This equation also you can remember. Hydroxyapatite is converted to the fluorapatite. Copy this, student. Next continuation, student. Drinking water contaminated with lead and lead pipes are used for transporting water. Lead can damage kidneys, livers and reproductive system also. The water transporting takes place by using lead pipes. If the water is contaminated with the lead pipes, which can damage kidneys, livers and reproductive system also, because lead is also toxic element. The concentration of lead is limited amount, it is okay, but more concentration present in the drinking water, it can damage kidneys, livers and the reproductive system also affected. Next one, excess sulfate ion concentration. That is greater than 500 ppm. In a drinking water causes laxative effect. That is constipation problems. If the concentration of sulfate ion greater than 500 ppm causes laxative effect known as constipative problems. Last one, student, very important in our competitive JEE and NEET point of view. Excess of nitrate ion more than required concentration is present in the drinking water causes a disease known as methanoglobinemia. Methanoglobinemia, which is known as blue baby syndrome, blue baby syndrome. Baby skin turns blue due to insufficient oxygen in the blood. Blue baby syndrome is baby skin turns blue due to insufficient oxygen in the blood. Sufficient oxygen is not present in the baby blood, then the skin will be changes to the blue color, which is known as blue baby syndrome. Clear, students? Once again, the excess nitrate ion in drinking water causes disease known as methanoglobinemia, that is blue baby syndrome. Baby skin turns blue due to insufficient oxygen in the blood. Clear the 3 points, students? Contaminated with lead, damaged kidneys, and excess of sulfate ion, constitutive products, which is known as laxative effect. Excess of nitrate ion, blue baby syndrome. For each ion, some diseases are there, you can remember. With this, water pollution is completed, student. Copy this, student.